Effects of a steps per day program with evaluation in physical education on body mass index in school children 11 to 12 years of age by Alberto Grillo Cruz, 2016. Physical activity and physical education. So in this article, one of the main concerns of World Health Administration is the growing increase of body fat observed in the population of developed and developing countries. Schools can help play a role in preventing obesity and to control youth and childhood overweight by implementing a physical activity program in the PE classes. In the article, it states that PE can help to increase physical activity levels and can influence how active the children are in their behaviors when they are out of school. Pedometers can be used to measure physical activity in PE classes because it allows for teachers to measure how many steps are taken during the class and how active the children are outside of school. It can also help to provide immediate feedback of physical activity levels. It has been considered very promising because it leads to increased physical activity in students and it can be used as a motivational tool. Daily step recommendations. It is recommended that 10,000 steps a day can be taken as a valid objective to classify adults as active. The main recommendations for teenagers range between 11,000 and 16,500 steps per day. Some of the authors in this article state that at least 16,000 steps a day are necessary to improve body composition, and the minimum is set for this objective is 15,000 steps a day for boys and 12,000 steps a day for girls. In the article, it is recommended to improve body weight by reducing the amount of steps to 12,000, 11,000, and 10,000 steps a day for 5 to 12-year-old boys and 13 to 16-year-old boys, and 5 to 16-year-old girls. One of the authors observed that a reduction in body mass index and body fat after a 6-week program of 12,000 steps per day in overweight teenage boys and 10,000 steps a day in girls. The main purpose of this study was to assess the effects of a 6-week pedometer intervention program aimed at promoting physical activity among primary education students, as well as the body mass index variation within the 6 weeks after intervention. One objective was to quantify the number of steps taken by the participants during the program, separating out of school from at school time and weekdays from weekends. Another objective was to assess the effects of the program on body mass index. Methods, research design. The experiment was a controlled trial with a follow-up. The experimental group completed a program based on the set minimum steps per day, and the pedometer was used for evaluation and follow-up purposes. The control group was not involved in the step per day program and did not use pedometers. The participants' BMI was measured at the 3 points, pre-intervention, immediately post-intervention, and after the 6-week retention period in both groups. Participants. 151 students from 4 primary schools of southern Spain took part in this study. 156 students volunteered out of the potential sample of 176 6th graders. Figure 1 in the article shows the flow of participants throughout the program implementation. Procedures. The number of steps per day was measured by means of arm-run pedometers. The participants' BMI was calculated from their weight and height measures using a Type B Class 3 weighing scale and a portable height rod. The research was performed at the experimental group, 66 participants, after 9 participants dropped out of this initial 75 participant group, and a control group of 76 participants. Table 1 shows the features of the participants at baseline: their age, weight, height, body mass index, gender, and whether they were normal weight or overweight. Program implementation. Each student had to comply with a plan consisting of a minimum of 12,000 steps per day for boys and 10,000 for girls. The students were asked to wear the pedometers for the whole day except for when they were in bed and when they were in the shower. The control group did not use pedometers, but their data was recorded periodically at the same time points as for the experimental group. Table 2 also shows the additional marks in physical education according to program fulfillment. It shows the steps a day for boys and steps a day for girls. The participants recorded their daily steps for 6 weeks. The number of steps taken during school time, including the commute time to and from school, and during the whole day, were recorded every day by the children in the presence of their parents. Every week, the research staff checked with the internal memory of each pedometer that the registered steps were correct. The steps on weekdays and during the weekends were also quantified. The measurement of each participant were taken 3 times pre- and post-intervention and post-D training periods, separated by 6-week periods between the measurements. Total time was 12 weeks. Results. After 6 weeks of intervention, the normal weight students complied with the minimum steps to a greater amount than the overweight counterparts, 72.7% versus 59.1%. Students between the ages of 12 and 11 took an average number of 11,952 steps per day. Boys took 14,274 steps per day and girls 10,626. The average number of steps per day was 12,345 on weekdays and 10,969 at the weekends. Table 3 shows the results of the effect of a 6-week intervention on the number of steps a day in 11 to 12-year-old boys and girls. The steps are shown as on weekdays in school time, on weekdays in out of school time, on working days, during weekends, and throughout the whole week. Table 4 shows the results showing the average number of steps taken by normal weight versus overweight students after a 6-week intervention. An analysis was completed separately for boys. The steps are shown as on weekdays in school time, on weekdays in out of school time, on working days, during weekends, and throughout the whole week. Figure 2 shows the body mass index of the 142 participants. It shows the effects of a 6-week training on body mass index, pre-initial measure, post-measure after 6 weeks, and detraining 6 weeks after intervention. Conclusion. This paper studies the effects of a 6-week steps per day program with pedometer in 11 to 12-year-old school children. The minimum of steps per day prescribed by the program was exceeded by 83.3% by boys and 59.5% by girls. For both the genders, the average number of steps per day recorded decreased as the program advanced, but the results showed a significant reduced BMI and was observed in the students equipped with pedometers who managed to comply with the minimum number of steps per day. This effect on BMI remained significant for 6 weeks more after the intervention. These results suggest that the use of monitored steps per day programs can be included in the PE curriculum without apparent risk for children, since they have been proven useful to improve body composition in 11 to 12-year-old students. This study showed that the average number of steps per day taken by normal weight and overweight students was similar. The results showed that the application of a steps per day program with weekly follow-up measurements and motivation set by higher physical education marks led to significantly reduced BMI in the students. In conclusion, after a 6-week program of 12,000 steps per day for boys and 10,000 steps a day for girls, supported by PE reinforcement program and a weekly follow-up by PE teachers, it can generate significant BMI reductions in 11 to 12-year-old children. Some limitations of this study was the responsibility of the students to wear the pedometers. They were only 11 to 12 years of age and at times were not always dependent on to wear the pedometers at the proper time. Another limitation of the study was having to check the pedometers periodically. The data was constantly having to be recorded. The study did not measure the students' physical activity before the program was implemented, so the influence of the pedometer use on the physical activity cannot be established accurately. Another limitation was a lack of motivation from the participants. Implications. Some implications of this study was that the pedometers do not record intensity of physical activity or other types of physical activity, one example being swimming. Pedometers is simply a motivational tool to monitor physical activity. If monitored by a trained physical educator and the program is implemented into a physical education class, then there can be significant BMI reductions. Here are the references. Thank you. Please feel free to comment with any questions.